Welcome one and all to another edition of the Defo Show with Lubie here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network, brought to you by Water Cleanup of Florida. Are you a South Florida property owner with an insurance claim? Are you dealing with water, mold, or fire damage to your home or business? Are you having trouble locating a 5-star rated general contractor that is fully licensed, certified, and insured? If the answer to any of these questions is yes, then Water Cleanup of Florida is here for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with over 60 years of combined experience to Michael, Robert, and their entire team, including, don't forget, George. They are prepared to handle any size property damage disaster. When any unexpected damage occurs to your home or business, you need specialized, fast, and reliable services. Water Cleanup of Florida understands that what the impact and stress of a disaster can be and can cause. Their objective is to make the cleanup and insurance claim process painless and hassle-free. Believe me, my wife and I have dealt with them and dealt with the ideas of an insurance claim, and for us, they made it so seamless, we never had to stress for a second. Opposite, my father-in-law, mother-in-law had water issues, and they did not go with Water Cleanup of Florida, and it's been a pain in the butt for them. You want something seamless. You want, whether it's your home or office, to go smooth, and believe me, we all want that. Water Cleanup of Florida is a place for you. Their licensed, certified, insured contractor is a big thing, okay? Because instead of having to just worry about getting the damage fixed, you want it to look good. You want it to look like it never happened. And you don't want to have to go to multiple places. They can do that for you. Plus, Water Cleanup of Florida is now an authorized dealer of Eurocraft cabinets. So premier kitchen, bath, and laundry cabinetry, countertops, and other accessories are available for your viewing at their showroom in Boca Raton, or send one of our design, or they'll send one of their design specialists to you with samples and products that fit your style and budget. Just call Michael anytime on his personal cell at 954-579-0356. That's 954-579-0356, or check the website, wcufl.com. Also check them out on the socials at Water Cleanup FL. Plus, Google loves them, just like you'll love them with over 85-star reviews. Check them out on Google. Water Cleanup of Florida. If you have the schmutz, they have the guts. The Heat have been struggling lately. Not Jimmy Butler. He's been playing out of his mind. The rest of the Heat have been a disaster, including Bam Adebayo. The Miami Dolphins, of all teams, are right now the one with the offseason champion title. As for the second straight offseason, they went and got a big whale, a big fish, made a big splash. Jalen Ramsey will be joining the Miami Dolphins for not a lot in return to the Los Angeles Rams. We talked with Jason Cole, longtime NFL insider, about Jalen Ramsey joining the Miami Dolphins and more things NFL right here on the Defo Show with Lubie on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
Welcome to the show, our outstanding NFL analyst, longtime friend of the program here, the great Jason Cole. Jason, how are you, my friend?
I am fantastic. What's going on?
What isn't going on? I mean, we have Aaron Rodgers coming out of the darkness. We have the Bears trading the number 1 pick. We don't know who's going to actually, be that selection. And Carolina looking for, obviously, a quarterback. And you have 2 guys that are supposedly neck and neck. And then, I mean, as I'm falling asleep thinking, well, what are we going to talk about? Because I know nothing about this movie that won the Oscar for Best Picture. I see on a crawl that the Dolphins got Jalen Ramsey. I'm like, wow. I mean, another blockbuster deal made by the Miami Dolphins in an effort to be good. Did they fix their problems here? They have now Fangio as a defensive coordinator, well respected, and added in a cornerback who, even though statistically people are saying he tailed off a little bit, like the X-Men, still, looks to me to be pretty formidable. What did you think of what transpired there?
Well, I thought the value on the deal in terms of what they gave up to get him was certainly good. You know, a 3rd-round pick, and a guy who hasn't played much at tight end, or a guy with who has played great, and all those things. This is a good deal from that perspective. The amount of money they're paying him in terms of the cap is somewhat problematic. But it does rid you of some problems you had in the back end if you wanted to get rid of some personalities. But, let's just say this. Jalen Ramsey is, and we've talked about it before in the show, is a pretty big personality himself.
Yes.
So I'm fascinated by this trade from all of those perspectives. think it was a necessary trade. I mean, who he's going to get? Who's going to cover guys like Wilson and Diggs around your division a couple times a year? Presumably, the Patriots will eventually get a wide receiver who's at least halfway decent at some point in time. I like this move that way. The only hesitation I have on it is you dedicate a lot of money to this guy, and you better be sure his ability is there. I have a hard time judging cornerbacks who play on teams that are not very good. Because I don't think they get challenged much. I will say that a couple of times last year I saw him get challenged. He gave up some bigger plays than I expected, but I also think he was not very disciplined last year in the way that he played because they had to gamble a lot to try and get the ball. Like if they were going to compete at all, he was going to have to make some plays, and so they asked a lot of him. But there is something there to saying his ability is in decline, but his ability is vast still, even though it's in decline.
Jason Cole, Outkick.com is where you find his work. Outstanding NFL analyst. Well, it's interesting, too, because, you're looking at all of these mathematical permutations and the numerology involved in teams addressing salary cap, and then, they'll take on, a quarterback that's making $60 million, but he only counts 1.8 against the cap, and I can't figure it out. Who devised this system? A bookmaker? I mean, this is kind of like trying to calculate juice on a daily basis. Does anybody fully understand what goes on there, Jason?
Yeah, absolutely. This is the closest that any of the leagues have to a hard cap. I mean, it's certainly it's a lot easier to understand than a baseball system in which you have guys getting contracts that pay them through the age of 41, premium dollars because of, you have to keep averages down. So you overpay on a long-term basis, or a system where, you have like fifth, mid-level, seventh day of the Advent exceptions. I've never really quite understood that in the NBA. I mean, the NFL has a hard cap, where the money that you have paid out counts. And the question is, who does it count for? Is it the team that paid or the team that's about to pay? And in this case, the Green Bay is going to take on most of the money, and the question is, how long does that get prorated over? And there are hard dollars that count in the NFL, and it's really not that complicated if you understand that basic fact. So, who devised it? Like, it's in cooperation. It's been around for 30 years. It's in cooperation with the players, but basically the NFL. The NFL has a bunch of guys that they call capologists, who are football accountants, who make sure the beans count. Because at the end of the day, I'll just say this: the owners win in this system.
Oh yeah,
no doubt,
and they win big.
Certainly appears that way. I mean, even the biggest buffoon of an owner is cashing in, handsomely on whatever investment they made, no matter how large it was or seemed to be at the time. I believe whoever his last team was is still playing.
Let's put it this way: Dan Snyder paid $1 billion for the Washington then Redskins. Has been a buffoon as an owner for more than 2 decades, closing in on 3. One of the most awful human beings that you could possibly imagine. Just a bad business partner who's driven his local income down by 33%, right? And he's going to make 6.5 times his money.
Exactly, and it's not a small.
He's going to make.
He's
going to be like $6.5 billion for that.
Right.
So,
it's incredible. It really is. Anytime this subject came up when it was first being, the whole idea was being developed about salary caps and limitations on players, always off the ticket what was factoring in the escalation of value of the franchise, which
Yep.
now
Yep.
it's beyond exponential what these franchises are worth. I mean, I remember when you thought, wow, that's a lot of money for an expansion team when in 1988, not all that long ago, they came into the league at a tab of $50 million, which was chump
Yeah.
change to the Arisons. But, nonetheless, I mean, what's that worth today? That's got to be in the $4 billion range also. And that's rarely factored in. His last team is still paying Minnie Minoso on a baseball salary,
Exactly.
even though he hasn't been with us for quite some time. That's the way that works with the guaranteed money. All right, let's get into this number one pick thing. Who's it going to be, in your opinion? And Carolina gave up a lot to get into that spot. Who do you think really benefited there? If you need a quarterback and you feel like either Stroud or Young is the man, or anybody else, as Richardson has suddenly caught fire in terms of attention. I can't see the Panthers spending a number one pick on him as a project. But what did you make of the deal, and what do you think is going to happen there?
I thought the deal was a fairly reasonable price to move from 9-1. Still expensive, and I thought Chicago did okay. I don't think that the market for Chicago was as robust as they were hoping it was going to be, because there are 4 quarterbacks in this draft. Now, Richardson I don't put in with the other 3, because Richardson is his own project. And I hope the kid makes it, because frankly, he went to the same high school that both of my sons went to in Gainesville.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so Eastside High School, represent for the Rams. So, I mean, I really hope the kid makes it, and everything I've ever heard about him, I don't know him personally, but everything I've ever heard about this kid is that he's an outstanding kid. And, the things that you read about him, how he's taking care of his brother, he's terrific. The problem is that he played half of his senior year at a fairly terrible high school program.
Wow.
I know that for a fact. Didn't throw a lot of passes. Went to the University of Florida, threw less than 400 in-game passes during those 3 years at Florida. He just hasn't thrown the ball a lot. He hasn't had to read a whole lot of defenses. He hasn't had he doesn't have experience in a pro style, drop back, set it up, read it, let's go. I'm not saying that he can't do it, but you're expecting him to learn the game
at the
NFL level.
Yeah.
I mean, wow.
Oh.
You better have, and I say, you better have 2 years set aside for this kid to probably sit and play. Not a lot, just a handful of downs for him to make it. And there aren't many teams that are drafting that high in the draft who have 2 years to wait. Maybe Seattle, because you've got, Geno Smith, and you can use him as a bridge and all these other things that we talk about. But man, he's a project. So to me, it comes down to, Levis. Levis didn't have the greatest senior year. And then you talked about the first 2 guys. So ultimately, to answer your question, it's Stroud versus Young. And I got a hard time taking Young, personally. And I think that Frank Reich is probably going to have a problem with it as well, as a former quarterback, knowing the things that you have to deal with. He's going to have a problem taking Bryce Young, number one, if he, given that he's that small. But Bryce Young is the one who's better prepared based on experience and system. And the fact that he's probably thrown since his junior year in high school, where he threw probably 500 passes, 400 passes at a high-level program in Southern California, at Mater Dei. He's probably thrown 2,000 passes in his career. Compare that, 5 times what Anthony Richardson's thrown, and played in a pro-style offense at Alabama. That's going to be really hard to turn away from. And especially when you look at C.J. Stroud, another kid who played in the pro style offense at least in high school, but also played in that Urban Meyer kind of quasi offense in college, where there's not a lot of reads involved. So this is tough. C.J. Stroud from a body type, and if you're betting who's going to last longer in the NFL, Stroud is probably the guy. From a training and technique and readiness, it's Bryce Young. So it's a really, really tough call.
What seemed to not be a tough call, but it sort of lingered, is the Aaron Rodgers to the New York Jets. Like, heading into the weekend, it felt like that was somewhat of a done deal. We haven't heard a lot of teams chasing.
Nothing's ever a done deal with Aaron Rodgers.
Well, and the Jets,
Come
actually,
on.
that combination.
I mean, come on, you can have a debate. You can have a massive debate over how to cook an omelet with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, seriously. I mean, this is a guy who, he rethinks how to clip his toenails. I mean, it's just, come on. You know, Aaron's got to the point where he's so full of himself that, like, you had to go to some dark place cavern in southern Oregon, to burn incense and, escape from the light for 4 days. I mean, get out of here. Like, you're not you're not a shaman, okay? You're really not. Okay?
Oh, my God.
You're dude, you got $60 million to play for. You're going to play. We all know it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay? But it's all about things that empower his ego. And he likes to see himself as different and above everybody else. And he's full of it. And I like him. I like him personally.
I used to love him.
I like to talk to him. I love to watch him play. He's, but he thinks like he's above it all. And he thinks like he was above, having to show up last offseason. So they got into the same exact predicament with Rodgers at the end of his career as that they got into with Favre, who's basically a mindless idiot.
A bit unscrupulous, also, you would have to say. So it seems.
Unscrupulous, mindless idiot,
yeah.
Like Brett Favre. They got to the exact same place with Rodgers as they were with Favre at the end of their career, and they've, the Packers have had enough. Now, the only thing that, in my mind, is going on is the gamesmanship. Like, Mark Murphy should have not opened his mouth to say, basically, we want you out.
Yep.
Unless Mark Murphy was trying to play some reverse psychology game to get him to come back. Because part of this is, Aaron wants to feel like he controls his own fate. And he wants to go against the grain. And if the grain is pushing him out of Green Bay, he's going to want to stay, just to be a disagreeable human being. So to me, part of that is he going to be really truly disagreeable and push himself to stay, or is he going to take the out, go to the New York Jets, spend a year, maybe 2 years, fighting with the New York media?
I was going to say, like, how can that work?
Single day. It's not going to work. Like, Aaron Rodgers thought that the Green Bay media was tough.
Yeah.
Where do you get a hold of what the Jets media is like? Come on, man.
Especially since they're accustomed to sensing disaster and impending doom. The wrestler Kevin Sullivan was never the same after he went to the dark side, and I think some of this is happening to Aaron Rodgers as well. But we'll always have mad respect for Aaron Rodgers, Jason Cole, for getting in a car wherever he was living and having Danica Patrick drive. Because, you talk about taking a high risk. That would be it.
Well, the man has done some special things before, so that's definitely true. Again, he's a fascinating football player, by himself, and he's a really smart guy.
Yep.
He's not as smart as he thinks he is, and this is the thing that we all deal with, especially in late 30s, when we start to kind of hit the top of our career, we really become full of ourselves. He is max full of himself right now, like thinking, "Oh, I could have been a host of Jeopardy." No, you couldn't. You really couldn't. Okay? And you certainly couldn't be a host of Jeopardy and play football together. Like, that wasn't going to happen. Okay? And to think that you can get by and just automatically walk on the field and have relationships with your wide receivers, and they're automatically going to go to the right place without you spending months working with them and actually showing up to practice football. Like, it doesn't happen that way, dude. You're not magical, okay?
Exactly.
Despite the fact that you do think that you're a shaman.
Excellent as always.
the best call,
Outkick.com is where you'll find him, and just a dominant force when it comes to NFL Insider.
So the Dolphins definitely still have holes on the offensive line. They need a guard, they need a tackle, and they need a pretty strong backup tackle because Armstead's going to get hurt 4 to 5 games a year. Corner was, though, a major need for them, and now they have probably the best tandem in the league. Yeah, there are other teams that have good cornerback tandems. These are 2 dudes that are all pros, and Xavier Howard and Jalen Ramsey, both last year were asked to do a lot because of injuries on their teams. Now having each other, plus having Holland as a safety. If you can get Brandon Jones, who played really well for the Dolphins last year and then got hurt, bring him back. That secondary is probably the best in football. Up front, Jalen Phillips with Bradley Chubb. If you can keep Chubb healthy on the other side of Jalen Phillips with Wilkins in the middle, who had a Pro Bowl caliber year. That defensive line is one of the better defensive lines of football. They need a linebacker and they need offensive linemen. And I think if I know it, they know it. They did a lot of work on the cap, and they're going to rework some other deals, and they'll rework Jalen Ramsey's deal. So they'll have a lot of money still to make moves in free agency, shore up that team. I don't know if they're winning a Super Bowl, but I know they are a Super Bowl contender. I said it just there, and we said it all year, and we've said a lot with Tua. Health is their problem. Now, if healthy, to me, they're as good as any roster in football. And Tua was not even top 10, was a top 5 quarterback most of the year when he was healthy. Then they started having issues on the offensive line. They started having health issues on the defense side of the ball, and that started hurting them as a unit, and they struggled down the stretch. And then Tua was hurt again, and they limped. And even when they banged up a hurt Tua, a third-string Skylar Thompson, rookie, almost beat the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo in the playoffs. So you add a Ramsey, you add Vic Fangio as defensive coordinator. The Miami Dolphins are loaded on both sides of the ball. It's health. If they can stay healthy, huge if, they'll be as good as anyone in football. But the if with health is a big deal. So we shall see. At least it's another offseason full of excitement for the Miami Dolphins. Right now, it's a regular season full of stress for the Miami Heat. Had a chance to get within 2 and 2.5 games of the Nets and the Knicks and played a bad Magic team who aren't even in the conversation for the playoffs and struggled. And then Jimmy Butler did everything he could to save the day, and it wasn't enough because he had no help from anyone, including Bam Adebayo, who's gone away. Like, he played really well until the All-Star game. Bam Adebayo has sucked, like point blank, sucked since the All-Star break. It's not even that we know he's had his struggles on offense, but you can always count on his defense. His defense hasn't been good since the All-Star break. I don't know what the heck's going on with him, but literally just him helping Butler in that game would have won that game. Instead, they were a disaster in overtime, lost. And now with the Knicks winning yesterday and the Nets winning yesterday, the Heat are down 4 games to both of them for the 6th and 5th spot. Not looking good with about 14 games remaining for the Miami Heat. We'll see if they find a way to have the magic happen in the last 3 weeks of the NBA regular season. We'll talk a lot more about the Heat. We'll talk a lot more about the Dolphins. We'll talk a lot about your sports world, local and national, on the Defo Show with Lubie on South Florida Live, 7 to 9 every morning. Check us out here with Defo on 5. We give you a little snippet of sports and non-sports discussion each and every day on 5 Reasons Sports Network. We have a national podcast where we talk with really cool entertainers, musicians, sports, athletes, and also just ourselves. The Believe Network, BLEAV.com. Search after hours. And our local content, home, the Defo Show with Lubie, right here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305 453-9066.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.